Hey everybody, it's me Fadi and welcome again to another episode of how to build and maintain a reef aquarium. Last week we talked about the different coral types, soft corals, LPS and SPS. And today I'll show you how to introduce these corals and position them in your tank. In addition, I'll show you how to feed the corals. As it is the case with all living animals that we add to our tank, we need to acclimate the corals. Corals are very sensitive to sudden changes in water parameters like pH, salinity and temperature. Fill the bag or the container in your tank for 15 minutes, so the temperature in the bag matches your aquarium temperature. Open the bag or cut it with a scissor and then remove the frags and put them in a container for acclimation. Then you can drip acclimate until you match the salinity. Dipping corals is very important. You don't want any pets and coral eaters to hitchhike its way to your aquarium. I dip with Sea Chem Dip or Coral RX while drip acclimating the corals. Brush the base of the plug or rock and give the coral a good stir with the water in the container. You need to keep in mind that the dip will kill the worms and pests. However, it will not kill the eggs. So you will need to closely inspect for eggs. Here is where a coral QT can be helpful, as you can keep the corals in the QT and observe them for any signs of pests. And dip every 5 days to make sure that you killed all newly hatched worms before they make eggs again. And after we acclimated and cleaned our corals, now we need to add the corals and position them in our tank. So you will need to research each coral to know its requirement of light and flow. Generally speaking, SPS needs high flow and high light, so we will place them at the top part of the aquarium. If you are adding some plating or tabling across, keep in mind that it will grow and shadow everything under it. As you can see, I positioned all the plating montes on the lower edges of the aquascape. LPS generally needs low to medium flow, so I position them in the bottom half, and I keep the few softies I have in the bottom corners. You can visually determine the amount of flow where you are placing the corals. The polyps and flesh should gently move with flow. If the flow is very strong or low, you can reposition the coral or change the intensity of the power head. We talked about flow and wave makers in episode number 6. Determining the light intensity is more difficult. You will need a bar meter. Generally speaking, high demanding SPS corals will need from 250 to 400 bar. Medium demand LPS corals will need from 150 to 300, and soft corals that need low to medium light from 50 to 200. You can go back and watch episode number 12 for more details about aquarium light. Another important thing, you need to keep some space between aggressive corals that can sting and kill other nearby corals by its sweeping tentacles. Depending on coral type, corals can be positioned on the rocks or directly over the sand. We use super glue to secure the corals to the rocks. You just apply a small amount of glue on the coral base, twist a little to break the surface of the glue and hold for 30 seconds. Coral frags comes attached to frag plugs. If the coral is not encrusting over the plug, I remove the coral using the tip of the coral cutter. If it's encrusting and you don't want to waste the good base encrust, I cut the stem of the plug with the coral cutter. For soft corals like leathers and mushrooms, it will be hard to glue them, so I usually keep the plug and just position it just over the sand or glue it to a rock. There is much debate to feed or not to feed the corals. Coral foods contribute in faster growth, better coloration, and more fleshy appearance for LPS corals. However, some reefers don't target feed their corals and rely on broadcast feeding or food leftovers from fish food. I have noticed that Goniopora corals will do better when target feeding it with too little fish's Goniopower. For SPS corals, I have noticed better colors and growth when using amino acids like too little fishes Acropower. Amino acids are broken down proteins that corals will spend less energy consuming and utilizing them. If you are going to feed your corals, try not to overfeed. One time weekly is enough to feed. And if you are having a heavy feeding schedule with a variety of different foods, I don't see that it's required to feed the corals. In addition, I wouldn't target feed a coral unless it's showing some feeding reaction and actually eating the coral food. The foods I'm using in my aquarium are Polyplap Reefroids, Goniopower and Acropower. In addition to these foods, I consider my fish food recipe a good source of food for corals. It contains a mix of different sizes of grinded meats in addition to plankton that the coral will eat, and I can see the feeding reaction after feeding from most of my corals. Remember, good nutrition doesn't mean dirty water or high level of nitrates. Nutrients include, in addition to nitrate and phosphate, other food particles, different kinds of zooplankton and phytoplankton, and amino acids. Try not to overfeed your corals. as all these leftover foods, if they are not consumed, they will break down into nitrate and phosphate that will feed unwanted algae growth. In addition, that high levels of nitrate will inhibit growth and colors. Coral corals and pore extension can give you a general idea of the coral health. If the coral is turning brown, that means that there is not enough light, too much nutrients, or not enough flow. If the coral is losing color and starting to turn pale or white, that means that either the light is too strong or there isn't enough nutrients. If you feel that a certain coral is not happy at its location, you can reposition it to another location and give it some time to acclimate to the new location. We added this collection of corals to Handy's tank. Corals will consume calcium and carbonate to build its skeleton. So you will need to keep an eye on the different parameters and test regular. And in the next few weeks, I will talk about how to test the different parameters in your reef aquarium and how to maintain and supply calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, and other elements. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you soon in the next episode.